This topic is a very special one. I would say that it is the foundation of our whole approach to the spiritual world, which is annulment and submission, subjugation. Annulment and submission, because the question starts with this: what did the Creator create the will to receive for? As he says, he created the evil inclination. We could be as he is, in the will to bestow. If we will be in the will to bestow, we will not be created beings. We will only exist in a will to bestow. We now exist only in the will to receive. Are we created beings? We're also not created beings. We cannot exist in a single desire. We don't yet even understand what the Creator did and why he did it this way, truly so. This is why creation is bar, outside. It is something which is outside of something else. Something and its opposite, darkness and light, pride and annulment. This is what we need in order to build ourselves. And therefore, one who is greater than his friend, his inclination is greater, and then he overcomes his evil inclination, and he makes the good inclination, and a moment later, again he has an evil inclination that is revealed, and once again he needs the good inclination to get help from above, to ask the Creator to give him the possibility to overcome, and that way, upon the evil inclination that a person discovers all the time and he overcomes it, by this he builds himself. If a person doesn't have the bad inclination as well as the good inclination, then he's not a spiritual person. Therefore, the whole of spirituality begins with a person detecting the evil inclination within him, and he says, that is creation. This is what the Creator created. Now, what I lack is only the good force, which I already get from the Creator. There's no problem with that. I will turn to Him and He will help me. The most important for me is to detect the evil inclination that exists in me, and upon it, I need to rule the good inclination. As it says, love covers all crimes, so there will be no frictions or revelations, or the revelations of evil, that there will be nothing upon which to bring the good inclination, and that way to place the Creator upon the whole of creation. Because the whole of creation is existence from absence. So it can only exist as existence, the force of the Creator, that dwells upon something that is absence. It comes from zero, from nothing. And therefore, this is how we need to relate to each and everything within us, that each and every moment, through this inner engine that exists in nature, in the whole of creation, we get each and every moment, each and every one, a revelation of seemingly bad things. A revelation of our ego, which is the opposite of the Creator. Negative, separation, hatred. And upon that, we have to constantly turn from within us to the Creator and to ask for the force of submission, the force of connection, the force of love. And that way, in between these two forces, specifically between these two forces, we need to see that we're advancing. And therefore, both the light and the darkness must exist in each and every state. And if there is only a single state, it's not a true state. Also, light. There's no such thing that it exists without darkness. The spiritual state is when we have both of them and they're equal together, and we always prefer connection, adhesion, what we call light, to the separation, the distancing, what we call darkness. but we detect both of them and we position them in such a way. This is why when we find ourselves being in a bad mood, it's very nice. This is what we got from the Creator, so that upon it we can bring something which is opposite, good spirit to correct it. When we feel ourselves that we have no desire for spirituality, very good. So now we have to ask from above that we will be given that through illumination from above, that we will be given forces of connection, spiritual forces. That is, each time we have to be concerned about completing one with the other. So much so that people who are going on the path, they care both for the good and for the bad equally, to constantly be on the middle line, and to be concerned for the darkness as for the light, and for the light as for the darkness. Because if you don't have the two of them, I will not be able to establish myself in the middle in the form of Adam. Because the Adam in me is always established by these two opposite forms, and out of them I exist. Therefore, both the bad and the good, the darkness and the light, in all of their different manners, in all of their different variations, must exist in me. And I just need to always arrange the middle line, the correct relation, the correct balance between them, so that specifically I exist in this balance. And therefore I accept all of the bad things that happen in the world, that it's not that there's no room for them, God forbid, but it's just that I have to balance them with the good things. And if I would invite these bad things in advance, so that I am actually promoting the darkness, it is in order for me to balance it with the light, then I would be like in a cart with a horse, using both reins, and this is how I am advancing, like the horse being in the middle, going towards the goal. So in many places it says that we need to rule the light and also the darkness, and there cannot be light unless I also invite it upon the darkness, and it is all in order to balance myself, and not to say about some form of darkness, whatever it is, that it is incorrect. It all depends on my preparation. If I myself invite it, then there is no bad darkness. Rather, it is revealed in a form where I want it in order to discover the light. Just like if we have before us a set table with a nice meal, then we are happy that we feel hunger, we have appetite, a passion, and then we're drawn to the meal. This is why preparing the lack for true spirituality is first and foremost what we need to do, because the light itself is in absolute rest. It is here without any limitation. We just have to establish the correct efficiency for it, and accordingly we will discover it. This is called that we have to be in annulment and submission. We have to understand that annulment is not that we erase our ego with all of its different manners, and submission is not that we submit it in all kinds of forms of our will to receive in such a way that we seemingly erase it as though it does not exist. No, it exists to the extent that upon it we can bring the opposite things from it. As we learn that this is how the spiritual Partzuf is built. We live in the spiritual Partzuf through the coupling by striking in the peh of the Rosh. We leave the same will to receive with which we can work in order to bestow. That is, that same will to receive will actually reveal the light to us, because it is the opposite of the light, and there is a screen, and we have a restriction and contrast, collision between them. However, it's not mutual cancellation. If they will mutually cancel each other, we won't have the egoistic will to receive with Tzimtzum, Masach, and Or Choser, and we won't have the upper light, the creator, that will appear above these corrected desire. And this is why we have to be concerned about both of them. This is why a person should bless over the bad as over the good. If he is Adam, standing in the middle between these two forces. Therefore, even though we are talking about annulment and submission, subjugating the egoistic desire, we do it in a very special way, where it remains. However, we are using it in order to discover the light. We will study this from the excerpts, but this is what we will have to learn and to do. Therefore, for example, I get up in the morning, I don't have a good mood. I need to try to be happy about it, that this is the correct form to get up in the morning. This is the correct form, because by this I discover each time a new stage, a new hour, a new minute. I don't have darkness, and then it depends on which kind of darkness. I mean, how do I detect it? How do I define it? And accordingly, I advance. Therefore, if we're talking about annulment and submission, we need to realize that everything that exists, especially in the will to receive, it's pride. It is pride. And against that it says, and his heart should be proud in the ways of the Lord. That when I see that pride awakens in me for some reason out of myself, and that we have from the shattering of Adam Rishon, against that I have to elevate, to increase my path, my way, in the path of the Creator, meaning that the positive force will be like the negative force, and the two of them will be equal, equivalent, and I will not erase anything from the negative force, but rather to the opposite. I will be going forward, and I will constantly advance in such a correct way that the bad and the good must be equal to each other, but I prefer the right to the left, because, well, in what? According to the quantity, they're seemingly equal. And according to the quality, I prefer the right, the force of bestowal, to the force of reception. But I do not cancel the force of reception. I keep working with it in such a way that it helps me even more to emphasize, to increase the right. That is, we needed the darkness so that out of it we can see the light even more clearly. This should be clear to us from the examples of this world. We talked a lot about it. And therefore, I should be happy that I suddenly feel that I have pride, that I want to be more than everyone. Even subconsciously, I constantly check myself with respect to the others, and when I catch myself that this is how I truly am, this is how I think, or I look at things, I should be happy. I have a place to work. How can I arrange these two inclinations within me so that in between the two of them, I will discover the Creator in the right way, that the Creator in my attainment, in my perception, will also comprise darkness and light. Otherwise, I will not be able to discover Him. Anything can be discovered, can be discerned only out of darkness. So pride and control, I should feel them as the correct preparations for spiritual ascent. And this is why I should also be, how shall I put it, I should be happy if each time I discover within me a new egoistic will to receive, if I discover that I'm far from the friends, I'm the opposite of them, I have criticism over them. Why is that good? Because I have a place to work, to raise myself even higher up than the evil that is revealed in me right now. And the most important is to build out of myself a kind of an expert, so that I will be able to be independent of the bad and the good, but rather from these two forces that were given to me from above. From the two of them, I will compose myself, the image of the Creator within me, so that the will to receive in me exists, but I make upon it a restriction and have a screen and reflected light, and I invert it to be in order to bestow to the light, and that way from the darkness that the Creator has created as a copy of Himself, from that I seemingly get back to the original. I build out of myself the image of the Creator, and this is why I am called Adam, Domeh Labore, similar to the Creator. And all of this work, we talked about it, it is with faith above reason. We'll get back to that more than once, and we will see it. In short, a person should constantly be a psychologist of himself. He has to relate to himself as to a third person, as a doctor who is relating to his patient, this is something that is not me. Rather, I am building it out of myself. So if we position ourselves in such a way, we already begin to aim ourselves on the middle line. I have the Creator's force, I have the force that is the opposite of the Creator, and to the extent that I arrange myself to be included of both of them independently, then it will work out correctly. Then I will reach a state where I will truly be able to compose myself of these two opposite forces as the middle line that includes the two of them, and that will be the Adam. That will be the image that I have built, and it resembles the Creator. And in that image, I will be adhered to the Creator, and that way I will advance. We will talk more about it, we will work on that, but the most important is the approach, that there is no bad, but only in order for us to make it into good. And in itself, it's not bad and it's not against us, rather it is an indication that we have to overcome it. Now, we are entering together a very special stage in the development, the evolution of creation, that it's not just that the person does it by himself, and it's not just that we have to do it in the 10, in this way, to see the bad as preparation for the good, and the darkness between us as preparation for the light that we have to discover between us. And this is why all of the things that are not, when I get up in the morning in darkness and I search for how can I bring the correct approach upon it to the light, towards the Creator, towards bestowal. So it's not against, it's not just me, rather we have to do it in the tense already. That the darkness is already lack of connection, lack of love between us, and love is an eruption of connection, an eruption of love, an eruption of our inclination towards each other in the group, and from the group to the whole of humanity. This is what we will have to discover, especially in 2021. And here we have to realize that we have very big work, and we need to hurry up and to establish it, to acknowledge it, and to advance in this way. So truly we have a very special life, and each time they're getting an acceleration from above because, well, there's no choice. The upper force is awakening us, and it is obligating us to get to know our role in the general system quicker and quicker. We have to prepare ourselves for it and to understand that we were chosen to be the leading force, the avant-garde, and let us try to do it. It's not that we don't want other such forces to appear. Everyone is welcome, and it's not that we have to be the first ones, but as much as each one of us and all of us together are capable of it, let us always try to annul the bad and submit the bad in a way that it will be balanced with the good. This is the correct example for that is the spiritual Parzuf. We will study this practically between us and we will advance. The most important is this attitude to get used to relate to the bad states as a preparation from above, since there is none else besides him, to the positive relations that we need to detect and to demand of the Creator to make it happen. It's not that we do it, but rather there is a middle line here between the bad and the good, so that we don't cancel the bad and only draw the good, but rather the bad and the good that should be equal to each other can only be organized, arranged by the middle line. We don't know, we don't quite understand what is the middle line, but only when we turn to the Creator, then love covers all crimes. He will do that. Therefore, our work is the right response for the awakenings that we get from above and to try to detect them each and every moment. Individually, each one of us, and most importantly, is in the form of the tens. Then in the tens, we are constantly drawn through annulment and submission, each one towards the center of the 10, and then by that we can very quickly detect the upper force that is also awakening us in the center of the 10. Well, there's a lot to talk about here. We haven't yet started these excerpts that they prepared for us. So, let's take a few questions, but to the point and briefly.